And with that,
afternoon.
good evening or afternoon to everybody joining us tonight, as in we will be discussing the Ingenuity Mars Helicopter. And tonight we actually have our awesome, and I have to really tell you, I'm astonished what he did, the one who's pushing all the knobs and buttons and etc. So Cheese Mondo, thank you for hosting that whole thing, being our producer. Thank you very much. And I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great. This should be a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yeah, it will be. And as my backup, my secondary, or let's just say the one who is dragging me into all sort of madness is my good buddy Kieran, which will be joining us again tonight. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm actually excited because I just ordered my Lego space shuttle, which came out today. So totally excited and hyped. And I'm also excited to share a little bit of this time with y'all.
Ooh, that's great. So, Lego is always great, and even better if it's from space. And then we have somebody who we basically arranged last minute. It is our. I need to look up. It's Splash. Sorry.
You're doing well here today.
Yeah. So basically, my first plan was to bring on Ren Tradewin here, and then she suddenly had an appointment today. But good news, the appointment is actually to get her COVID vaccine. So yay on that. And then we were a bit of guestless, and then Kieran was like, hey, I got there somebody, and there was Splash. So how are you doing, buddy?
I'm rather tired. But fortunately, my water is cooling off. I can have some more tea soon.
Yes. That's also something. Everybody hopefully has a drink with them and enjoys tonight's show, because hydration is really important.
Yeah, some good tea goes well.
Oh yes, I mean maybe later on a bit of beer. Let's actually see who is in the chat. I mean, I saw Chupmunk the Drunk Monkey, and oi, thank you for being here. And we have Carl Edwards. Hello there, Doctor Who. Well, Doctor What? So Then we have Carl Edwards, and also we have Raptor and Matt Force, and even Slim the Living Cyborg. Hello to you all. I hope you're having a great day as well. So, if you might have seen it from the intro, the introduction, and everything else, it's about the Mars Ingenuity rover helicopter, which is currently still attached to Perseverance on the underside of its belly. Oh, it's Doctor Who number 4. I actually need to look that up because I haven't watched the old ones. And the current status of the rover, it's still attached under Perseverance, still securely tucked under. And they're basically waiting to deploy it, which will be happening soon, the next couple of days. And so my first thing is to ask, what do you think it will bring, or if it will have success or not, to Kieran and...
Well,
damn it. Splash.
Of course, you see, what was really exciting, of course, before they even get it out there, of course, it's gonna work. At least it's gonna do its functions. We'll see how well it's going to do it. I mean, the difference is we did the dry test in the test chamber with the guideway system to simulate Mars gravity and take some Earth gravity away from the little helicopter, and then also do the vacuum tests, which piloting it apparently doesn't really go too well with drone piloting a Mars helicopter. So that is one thing. But the tests on Earth have been successful, and now it's going to see, does the test chamber simulate Mars well enough to have similar results on Mars, of course.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I mean, they had extensive test runs with the helicopter. They simulated all sort of things and then tried a full test flight in the simulated atmosphere, and it seemed to be going quite well as it is. Now it's basically just the issue of actually deploying it, and hopefully that it will be able to run on its own, because currently it's still powered by the rover's nuclear battery. Yeah, I think that sums it quite up easily. So no issues there currently, because everything needs to be heated. And yeah,
because it's really cold, and electronics and batteries don't like the cold.
Yeah. Geez, can you show more of the first image, please? So then we have that on screen. Perfect. So that is one of the raw images, and I think it absolutely looks great, because you see they still need to turn all the image, because basically the camera is on its side, of course. There you see.
They have engineers, but no Photoshoppers, of course.
Yeah, that's why it's raw images. That's nothing more. So basically, you still it's almost there. It's almost fully deployed. The legs still are upright there and need to be released. And so far, everything is looking fine from what I heard and what I've read, and basically everything going to plan, and that's why they have taken for now a day for each step to deploy each step. So you can look at that on their webpage. That's mars.nasa.gov/technology/helicopter. So you can find it there, and also all on all of their social media stuff. Basically, they're still looking at if all the it's functioning correctly, and in the end, they will actually deploy it on the surface of Mars, which is just amazing. Yeah, it's sideways. It's the raw image, sarcastic barman. That's the point of a raw image. You don't get the fancy ones.
There's no Photoshop in raw pictures. It's
not with that attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tilt your head and then it's upright. I mean, or you can tilt your video monitor and then it'll be upright. you can do that,
Give me a sec. I just do that. Oh no. No, I don't want to distract myself here. No.
So everyone is now setting up their monitor right now, so that's what's going on.
Yeah, I just have to tell you, you need to turn it backwards after, because of course, I have other images, and even one's upside down. So
you can't play games when your monitor is sideways. It's like
that attitude.
Well, okay, not with that attitude. No, not.
You always can try. It's for sure is a challenge. Just some fun key facts about the whole thing. So Ingenuity weighs about 1.8 kilograms, and its rotor length is about 1.2 meters. So that's not a small one either.
Is that the length of a blade or the total whole span?
That's the total wingspan.
I'm not sure what the term is for the helicopter. I'm not sure what the term is for the helicopter.
It's blade, rotor blade.
No, I mean the distance across.
I think you can still say wingspan, because it's wing. So as far as I'm concerned, or somebody shall educate me on how you call it, because I think it's wings just rotating.
Blade.
Yeah,
I believe it's blades, but
it's actually
okay.
Well, it's actually saying there. It's saying blade span. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, they do have slightly different shape than wings because they rotate. as you go closer towards the center, you get a much steeper rotation, so that way it provides a more uniform lift across the whole distance, rather than providing all the lift out at the edges, because your lift is proportional to your speed squared, and obviously on a spinning circle, the edge tips go a lot faster than the stuff near the core.
I
see.
believe the edge wings are going like 0.7, Mach 0.7 is what I believe that the edge of the wings are. And like the rotor blades are so lightweight, like it's just like 56 grams or something like that. It's like absolutely lightweight.
It's like 37 earlier today. I think you said 37 earlier.
Oh, 37. Oh, yeah. Let me check up because, yeah.
It's spinning at 2,400 RPM.
It's 0.86. So yeah, it's per for the total of two blades. It's 0.7 of 70 grams. Yeah. Absolutely insane. It's like carbon and foam.
It's basically they saved everything, and I think the main thing which is weighing there is actually the battery, which is of course to keep the whole thing warm. And so if anybody doesn't know that yet, it's basically the issue is it's getting quite cold on Mars at night, or when the sky is basically blocked, and every electronics part in there is basically just asking to die in that cold.
The main battery function isn't flight. The main battery function is keeping it warm, insulated by carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
And
so, it's basically just a lot of isolating in the body, and let's just hope that everything will go well. And
it's going to be short flights.
I'm sorry. Well, the nice thing is that resistance heaters are very, very simple machines. So it's unlikely they've broken, and most likely they've used resistance heaters that have multiple strands. So even in the vibration of landing, it's unlikely that you've had many of the cores that have broken. That the heaters are likely to work. I expect they should work fine.
Yeah, it's. The best thing we can convert electrical energy into is basically heat.
Yes.
That's the best thing we can transfer it to. Nothing else is as efficient as heat.
Yes.
Example,
what
light
you want
bulb.
the rest product to be? Yeah. If you want the rest of the heat to be light, then it's light. If you want the rest of the heat to be movement, it's movement. But the main use of electricity is heat. Okay? A rotor is just a moving fancy heater.
It is. And also, sarcastic barman, we actually have somebody taking good care of us with turning around pictures if they are actually sideways, just for special persons like you.
So now you can all put your monitor back up again. There we go.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh, give me a moment. I actually tilted my setup. There we go.
Okay, we need a face palm.
Oh jeez, I
it's practical, okay? I don't want to tilt my neck, so tilt my monitor screen.
Yeah, well, some people can do that with their brain power.
Neck. Yeah.
I do it with brain power. I just basically tilt the whole thing. Never mind. So, oh, blimey. So, it carries a lot of power actually in it. So it's it needs about 350 watts average power during flight. So that's quite decent. And the first flight, and hopefully one of many, which will be, they would be taken off and will reach about a flight height of 3 to 5 meters. So barman. Yeah, well, I will not comment that, but let's just say somebody else might not have it anymore. It was quite the endeavor to put it in my head.
Well, they don't notice that, thankfully. They're not aware of it.
I mean, I collect a few and they're still acting normal. That is what's quite frightening, to be honest.
And normal for the environment they're in.
Yeah. So
anyway,
it's something about the flight range is about 300 meters, which, I mean, only solar powered, and with the harsh conditions it's already in, that's damn a lot.
Yeah, and itself, it's doing everything itself. There's no control or nothing. It's all autonomous. And all of that going in that tiny vehicle it's absolutely amazing. Flying in, a very thin atmosphere that is absolutely amazing. But I love that how they designed it. It can't fly in our own atmosphere because the air is too thick for it. So it's like it's stirring syrup for it. It's really cool.
That's
people always say that. Oh, it's just a drone. Well, it's a lot more than just a drone because the environment is so much different than what we have here. And then to have a drone operate there under these conditions, and of course this is still exploratory. We're still going to test the whole thing to see if it's gonna do something for bigger missions later on. Its main purpose is not taking nice pictures. It's trying to see if it's a viable method of moving around on Mars.
Yeah, so it will give a great advantage in actually scouting out an area first before going there. I mean, we had that with Opportunity a couple of times, which it just got stuck in, basically a bit of sandy ground and stuck for months, as far as I remember. And no, sarcastic barman, my PC is powered. Actually, wait, that's secret. I can't tell that. Of course it's not powered by brains. Of course it's powered by mice. Wait.
Mice. I know what we're gonna do, Pinky.
Oh, yeah, brain. It's been too long since I watched that show, actually, so...
There's a new one.
I mean, old and new.
There's a new one?
No, it's not new. Yeah, there's some new MAX going on, but we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, we are.
Again, it like happens
Damn
all
it.
the time.
So, I think it was... Mr. Cheese, can you show picture number 3, please? We have there's number 5 now.
Okay.
Yes, how good that's working. So yeah, there you see it in full detail how it's looking. So those are carbon blades.
Hold on. Are you just going to show us the pictures we're using so we don't have to do the talking now?
Are we going here? I mean, I like those pictures so that everybody has something in their mind to see what's that thing actually looking like. So
yeah,
that's basically that everybody gets it and what we're actually talking about. It has very limited stuff, and also with the sensors, cameras, it has actually only one, which then it used to triangulate its height and position above ground. And they actually had tests. They tested that stuff in the ETH, very high, one of the highest universities you can go here, for the first time here. And I think they're using part of that technology in there so they can navigate the helicopter around on the surface of Mars. And I think they also used it on the landing as well to scout out better landing locations. So it's basically using it. It's flying above and takes landmarks on the ground and then tracks them. And as it tracks them, the angles change, and with that they then can deduct how high and where it's standing currently, and so they can actually know how high it actually goes.
autonomous flying, pretty much. It sounds like almost like, okay, I don't know anything about IT and anything. It sounds almost what I know from like the missiles that they used, the Americans used with the automated missiles. I believe they loaded in a map that the drone would know on its own where it was flying using land telemetry. So it's like a similar technique, isn't it?
Yes and no. The one you were talking about is basically the one is like you are preloading the whole system with data, and then you start from a fixed point where you know you're standing. The drone is actually calculating, as in what I was talking about, but it's calculating in real time where it stands and what it does. And that's the whole fun of the whole project, was that it can just do that in real time. And they use that in drones here with just one camera pointing downwards, and then it managed to calculate its height and position where it was just by one camera. Usually you needed to make a triangulation, as in looking stereo down.
It's like walking with one eye, pretty much, in an environment you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then knowing how far you are from every object, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, factly, the controlling, as like with everything else, which is basically on another planet or on another planetary body, moon, for example, basically they will send all the commands to Perseverance, and Perseverance will then send the commands to Ingenuity, which then will execute them by it. And it's, of course, Ingenuity will be then flying, and Perseverance will taking pictures and observing the whole thing. So it's a two-part of the thing, and they both are quite interlocked, and they basically currently like, we have about a window of 30 days to execute that, and they both and Perseverance needs to be elsewhere after those 30 days, so the helicopter can't fly without Perseverance. And it's basically just they only see a life of it for 30 days, maybe even longer. I mean, Opportunity and Spirit were living way longer than expected. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe Ingenuity will follow Perseverance around. Like, I'm coming, hop. I'm coming, hop. I mean, Perseverance.
That would be adorable. You can use the propellers in the drone. You just hover above like the solar panels, and then take the dust off, like, and then you take the dust off. Ideal. There you go. No need for dust devils no more. With big hopes it will work. That would be hilarious, but you still have a rotor blocking then the solar panel. But if that actually would be happening, but first it actually needs to get on. The Perseverance needs to go away when it's deployed, and that it will happen soon. That's in about a couple of days, and it has about a day to move away. That's max time it needs to move. Otherwise, Ingenuity will die because that can't charge its battery, and Perseverance doesn't drive that fast. It's like 4 centimeters a minute or something like that. It's just insanely slow, but I mean, you have all the time of the world to examine everything. It's like, we're just driving carefully back, and don't rush things.
No,
it'll go wrong.
Oh yes, I mean, there's a couple of things going wrong if you just rush things, but there are also things which need to be rushed, as in they need to be fast in certain applications. But there, it's not time to just be careless and do stuff. So, I mean, Perseverance should be away in less than 24 hours, but if something goes wrong, they have about 24 hours. which is still a lot. So they can try to debug and assess the issue, assess the problem, and then maybe solve it and then drive on. And so the mission would be a failure. But both teams are interlocked in each other and are working closely together to bring this all to happen, which is, yeah. Will that be true?
And exciting again because of the delay, as you asked before here. Let me go up a bit about the delay Facty mentioned. Because of the delay, everything has to be autonomous. Everything, and that's the magic we're getting here. It's
it's all CGI after all. So
CGI, yes. But,
I mean, if you could, if somebody can tell that the intro is basically an over acceleration, it's like that somebody is working in the PR. It's a promotion. It's PR, and they're just trying to promote that thing. It's like, hey, look, we're doing something cool over there, and over exaggerate that. That's their job. That's what they do. And that's why you have lots of documents to read through when you actually want to go into details. I mean, even the website is bare, to say the least. Go on the Wikipedia page and then suddenly find more information and even more and more. Yeah. So that's basically all the stuff is going to happen. So they actually they quickly picked a flight field quite fast after landing because that stuff needs to be done quickly. And I think, what is it now? I think it's number 4. It's the flight field. Oh, and also heist. Yes, so there we go. Basically, they quickly selected the flight field as they already landed, and then they quickly start to assess all of it. And it's just a pretty darn flat area, and don't take my word for it, it is. Because that's what that thing needs to do their sciencey bits and try to do stuff. With big hopes, it will be a big success. So the first thing is the first flight is just going up, staying up there, and going back down, and that's it. And nothing else would be happening in that flight, but.
They're slowly going to build up the mission.
Yeah. Also, a little fun fact about Ingenuity is that they actually have a small piece of wing covering from the Wright brothers' 1903 Wright flyer attached to its solar panel. So, flight history being made on other planets. Yeah,
I mean, think about it. Like when the Wright brothers actually did create, the whole flight thing. But actually, they combined available technologies, combined them into a functioning new thing.
They created motorized flight. They already had gliders and they had motors, but nobody actually did combine them. So,
but here you are now about 100.
Technically, there was a Frenchman who had powered flight before the Wright brothers, but he didn't have controlled powered flight.
Yeah. Okay.
The French didn't have. They didn't have the controls yet. It's all that combined. They were the first, and coming from there till now, we're flying on another planet. In what is it? About just a little over a century. That's impressive. That is absolutely impressive. What we as a society can achieve, getting the greatest minds together and get here where we are now, and what's going to be up in store for us in the next 50 years or the next 100. I mean, this is exciting, and we're again seeing some pioneering they just keep pushing themselves, and I love that so much.
Yeah, that's a lot of progress being done in those fields. So some people don't get it when you want to do something. That's not usually we just chuck in a bunch of money and just try until we got something right. I, as a software engineer and also hardware engineer, can quite rightly say that's not how you do it, because it usually is more wasteful than anything else. You can do something quick and dirty, of course, but usually it's like, yeah, okay, we have there something that's working. Let's take that and make it much better. So I basically had a piece of software which I wrote, which was working, but I was like, nah, that can be better. And then I exported it into something which was better and more, yeah. It had some round time. I mean, I had a working thing in about a couple of weeks, but then I was like, yeah, let's make this perfect. And that took me about 2 months with a lot of interrupts in between because of the projects. It wasn't my project. But
it's with everything. Yeah. Everything, you start out raw and rough, and then you find out that it works, and then you fine tune it, and then you find out that also works, and that's how you develop things. It's just started with a rough sketch, and you'll get it fixed later on and down the line. Mm-hmm. Same thing goes for the rovers.
Yeah, it's basically the major part of the whole thing is basically just trying to figure out how to do it, and then testing how to do it, and then actually implementing it, and then actually building it fully completely. So that's the way it goes with those things, but not with some other companies which are trying to do with something rapid, scheduled disassemblies and just rapid prototyping, which is usually not a great choice to do. It usually leads to more problems than it solves.
But you also will find out it's a completely different approach, of course, and it does work. You get your data, so it's just another thing.
Yeah, it's basically especially with spaceflight, it's half of the time, more than half of the time, is basically spent for testing. I mean, who I was planning to bring on in the first place, Ren, is a parts engineer, electronics parts engineer, if I remember correctly, but she will hopefully won't speak on. And what she does is basically just testing and trying to see how they can test stuff, parts which they buy, and that's basically her full-time job. So, check if things are right and how they need to work.
For things like the system they used to simulate Mars gravity on Earth for the Ingenuity, for the helicopter, they used fish line, and they had to test which fish line did the best job of what they wanted it to do, with the stretchiness and the whole functionality. It's just stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's their field.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So
test engineering is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that are some of the problems you have to solve.
Yep. I can confirm that we basically just had a part of our lecture was about safety, as in safety programming and design, and we currently have made a little board which is its job is to deploy a parachute. Damn it, English. I mean, we managed to make it actually work. Now my big issue is basically the parachute is deploying too slow, as in physically deploying too slow for its job. So, I mean, I have a perfect detection, but my hardware is just not coming after.
Well, there's a couple things that you could probably do to help with that. Some of the things are, depending on how you pack the parachute, can make a big difference.
Yeah, I basically just have silk paper, a couple of strings, attach it with tape, and that's it.
Another thing that can make a big difference is using a piston to fire out the parachute rather than just releasing it. Because if you just release it, you have to wait for the air to interact with the parachute. If you use a piston, you force it out into the airstream much faster.
If I had the hardware to do that, I would. But I'm actually limited. I just have basically a board which release mechanism is a rubber band, and that's it. So I'm limited by hardware and I have made a couple of calculations. I say that most of the boards which we made will crash if the parachute isn't deploying fast enough. Unless our teacher will be providing us with actually parachutes which will work no matter what. But yeah, the boards aren't that expensive, so
you might also want to look at your parachute construction technique. The shape of the parachutes can really affect how well they open up. It's quite easy to think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna take a flat sheet and we'll make a parachute. Well, the thing is, parachutes aren't shaped like that.
Yeah,
and that's why you need a whole bunch of segments.
Yeah, that's what I did. It's basically a quick dirty fix just to test stuff. But let's see. Maybe I will make a better one. But it will take some time. Designing something to its job, and that will be currently have that it will most likely fail. I see that. They made the calculations that I think it will fail hard. But it will deploy the parachute, even though it will crash to the ground.
Yeah, it'll crash. I can imagine you just making something, and it'll crash into the ground, and then the outcome.
That's basically what's it doing. That's how it looked like the test site. It's like I dropped it from about 3 meters, and it was like plump. Parachute just laying next to it. It's like, yep, it deployed. It is funny. I love it. I love it a bit. Geez, can you show picture number 5 now? A recent one. It's the most recent one which they showed is like basically brought everything down. All the legs are now folded down, and basically they're waiting to deploy it. It's only hovering a couple of centimeters over each leg over the ground, and they just need to drop it. And from then on, Perseverance needs to back away and get into the observing position, and then it can go on. And so
they're gonna pop the bolt. There you go.
So pop goes the bolt. Yeah. God.
I really can't wait to see like footage of this. Like, it's one of these things, I live for it, to see these developments, and like what we had, like the pictures we had 10 years or 20 years ago when I was in school, and now is so much we're learning, and again we're just starting, and as a species to get out there and discover and explore, it's literally the beginning.
The speech to text is actually quite funny because it's picking up a lot of funny things.
Yeah,
and things you didn't even know you said. I mean, you should see it. You should see it if you configure it in. Let's say it's currently configured to English, and I start to talk Swiss German. That thing just goes haywire and tells me stuff I didn't even say. Oh God, I love technology. I mean, That's one of the hardest things, the speech recognition. But I can do it. They do it very well. Let's see.
Magic.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually really glad that they've been implementing the speech recognition more, that you're able to read the stuff. They recently implemented it on Google, and it's great because there's so many times that I'm listening to somebody and I cannot understand what they are saying.
Yeah, the whole thing is really nice, especially if somebody has a thick accent and the machine is like, yeah, I understand that, that's easy, and the human is just like, what the heck did he just say? I had that so many times, but it also works the other way around, as we see. Okay, Facty, I say it. She sells seashells by the seashore.
Wasn't it Shelley sells seashells by the seashore?
That actually picks up mine quite well.
Yeah. Well, I have sea cells. It's like, oh, hey, little batteries. There you go.
Oh, blimey. Let's just quickly try finding stuff.
I mean, we're impressed with the speech-to-text bot because of it is not doing anything under for a rover on another planet.
Yeah,
it's really for us. It's normal and easy to understand speech, but for a computer to understand the audio and then put it to words, it's also really impressive. I'm sorry, but
so yeah, who is it? Bible. I hope I pronounced your name completely incorrectly, because that's what I do. Yes, we are impressed by technology. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have any more funny questions or anything, we just will babble on. I mean, you know.
What about your discovery?
Queen. You know, the U.S. Air Force. It's actually behind the whole thing.
Yeah. What? Okay. Again, you saying the U.S. Air Force? Why? Why are they behind the whole thing here?
Yeah, that's basically it. You won't believe in what it's actually, what they're actually doing on. I mean, the U.S. Air Force is actually planning the whole thing. They basically covering that all in science, and yeah, you know the other guy we talked to later on. He's no longer responding.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you mentioned the American. The American Air Force, and now the person that was coming on isn't coming on now.
Yeah.
Get that right. So you're thinking that they're not actually getting a vaccine, but instead just go in the dark.
Yeah, they told me everything about it. They are planning and actually deploying killer drones on Mars, so Musk can't colonize it, and that's the whole truth behind Ingenuity.
So you're saying that they're going to completely on Mars, so that whenever Musk lands his party, they're going to have killer drones to destroy the mission.
That's what they're gonna do.
Are you really sure about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you were in the conversation as well. They told us everything about it.
Yeah, but Carl, it's a bit weird, don't you think? Isn't that it's at the least bit strange that something? Oh, okay. You know what? Close the blinds outside here.
Yeah. And on that note, everybody, Happy for April Fools. Oh, blimey.
And then, you know what? It's going to get picked up somewhere, and some tin hat for guy is going to pick it up and...
Yeah, so... yeah, the music is loud, and we apologize for it, but yeah, well, we had to drive a point across, and I usually hate it when somebody's just showing something. I mean, something silly as this that we just did. So,
by the way, creating a conspiracy theory like this, it took us 3 minutes, 3 bloody minutes to create.
I think you need 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, and you can spawn off something so stupid and you can't get rid of it afterwards.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I mean, I'm planning to see if anybody picks that up and then just point it out to that streams like, hey, that were we.
I mean, around, go to these tinfoil people and spread the thoughts. Like, oh, they're going to go. They want to keep the establishment, the space people in place. They don't want Elon Musk sneaking in the establishment. Someone is going to be.
Yeah, so on that note, on April Fool's Day, don't trust anything you hear. Just question everything as you usually should, and enjoy everything with a grain of salt. Because I got fooled a couple of times. I was quite gullible in my younger years, but now I'm just like, yeah, got evidence.
Well,
got
okay,
the citation, got anything.
I got actually rickrolled by. It's sort of plausible in this, political environment. I got fooled into clicking a link that indeed got me to one of those lovely rickrolls, and I love it when it's a successful rickroll because I didn't recognize the link because it was one of those new ones. Absolutely loved it.
I really like that song. That track was great. I got to listen to that song over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, in the Hall of the Mountain King. So that's from Edvard Grieg, which was Norwegian, and everybody can correct me on that, but that's just on top of my head. And yeah, I just basically love the whole piece as it goes into the crescendo, and just then, yeah. The other one is which I also really like is Fuchik. With the March of the Gladiators, which is also really great. So,
as you can see, we've been thinking of the music. That took the longest, really. That took about 5 minutes. No. So, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So Ingenuity is soonish being deployed, and yeah, and you see how easy it is to spread rumors, or just to basically what I think it was Ugly German Tooth. That was basically just people in the bathtub coming up with things with 0 brain cells involved, which is quite accurate. But I would like to say there's most likely also beer involved because reasons. And
yeah, that's exactly and what Tamahagana says here is like question everything always. Yes.
Oh, Ugly German Truths. I mean that would be nice to put people who are.
I've been thinking of putting all these conspiracy theorists of our countries together on an island and make something like Game of Thrones, where they've got all these. You give them swords, you give them bow and arrows and some spears, and have fun. It's going to be fun. Wait, is that a movie already? Nothing is original anymore.
Yeah, Entrance of the Gladiators. That's it.
Yeah. That's the correct one.
Oh yeah, that's from music to science to just silly stuff and everything. You had it all with me, and I think we've everything going on. Everybody needs to laugh at sometimes. If anybody has any more questions or
Yeah,
that's the way.
Talk about in regards to Ingenuity.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think is really cool about Ingenuity is some of the long-term things we can do, not with Ingenuity itself, but it's more of a technology demonstration.
Yeah.
And what I'm more interested in is showing that we are able to fly and control things on other planets. Now, Mars is sort of a curious case because its atmosphere is so thin that it really limits what you can actually do there. And so you're limited to, they've talked about things like high altitude gliders, which sort of glide around. Now, the nice thing about planes, and actually this is the difficulty of spacecraft, is the weight of cameras, as well as the resolution that you can actually get on a camera to identify small forms. Now, with a plane, you're a lot closer to the ground, so you're able to get a much finer resolution. You need and you can use that with a much lighter camera. So it's actually quite interesting. And the nice thing is, whether we do it with a glider or some sort of powered glider like on Mars, like solar-powered plane, or in a place like Titan or Venus, we could even use something more akin to an airship. And now Venus is a bit difficult because of the various atmosphere, but there are points in the atmosphere you can hang out relatively okay. And Triton is actually quite an interesting object to go around and explore because it's the only other surface we have with stable liquid on it. None of the other planets have that, which is very cool.
Yeah, Venus is just basically it's hell. Described in one word, it's hell.
I mean, okay, so Venus, they had like the first flight. It was on Venus with the Russians actually pulled that off with a balloon in the atmosphere, and they also landed a Venera on the surface, and they took some pictures, some audio records, and then it just slowly melted away into sadness because the environment is so corrosive that it couldn't hang out for more than like 30, 45 minutes.
It corroded and melted away. Basically, the electronics just died.
My favorite
That's
thing
what happened.
The Venera program is when the Russians went to sample, or they went to do a surface composition test, and they determined that it was made out of polycarbonate because they sampled the lens cap.
Yeah. The lens cap melted off, and they took a sample of that. Well, that's really, I felt sorry for them, but that was the lens cap.
Damn it! That is. I mean, that shit happens. I guess.
But these things are also important learning moments, much like the other lovely crash on Mars when the imperial and metric systems got mixed up. It's important learning points. It's like,
that really was Mars Climate Orbiter. That was that.
Yep.
So, because somebody didn't follow instructions by NASA, they used what was it? A weird American unit for thrust. Anyway, it wasn't metric, which they required, and basically they plugged in numbers, and then it might wee, and in the end it might completely miss the mark, to say the least.
It hit the mark. The problem was they didn't want it to hit the mark.
Yeah.
But not at those speeds, I think.
That's actually a sad story behind it. That's the other thing about design.
The thing with stuff like that,
speculation.
The thing with stuff like that, it's very from the Earth. There's points along the orbit that it's very difficult to determine how fast you're going and what direction you're actually going to make sure you're actually hitting the right spots on your trajectory calculations. and this might be something we could help in the future by we can actually put relay satellites or basically beacons at the various Lagrange points, and those should be relatively stable. That might help increase the accuracy should something funky like that happen again.
Nope.
Yeah, that's basically with those distances, a tiny mistake might be unnoticed, but has huge impact in the end. So, yeah, I mean, even with what is it, Webb, the Webb telescope, which they also put in one of those points. I can't say the name for the life of me. Lagrange. Yeah, they're trying to put that in one of those points. It might be able to help a little, but again, its main purpose is to observe, not to you use it for telemetry.
Well, the Lagrange points are really obviously really helpful because there is no orbit, there's no pull from any one direction. It's a stable. It's like a 0 point where it's like on the top of a hill. Like that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's the top of a hill, and each gravity source is basically a canyon, if you say so.
Well, the Lagrange points that you're interested in for navigation would be L4 and L5. I think Webb is going to Lagrange point 2, so it'll be on the dark side, or it'll be on the back side of the Earth, between the Earth and the Sun will be. Wow, I am not doing words well here. The Earth will be between Webb and the Sun, which would help shade it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You don't want to have the sunshine in your lens.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically you can look it up. Is Lagrange point. We have 5 in total. 2 is behind the planet. 1 is in front. 4 and 5 on the sides, and 3 is completely opposite of. On the other orbit side. So there you go.
Now, Lagrange points 1, 2, and 3 are unstable. Lagrange points 4 and 5 are stable. But the thing is, with Lagrange points 1, 2, and 3, you can actually put yourself in a sort of stable orbit by orbiting, or by basically moving around that central point. And you can actually do this with, for Earth-Moon Lagrange 2, the Chinese have a satellite in which it basically orbits around revolves is actually probably a better term for this. Revolves around the Lagrange point, and so it sits in a stable orbit. But with that, you're able to take telemetry and things from the backside of the moon, and because the distance it revolves around is wider than the radius of the moon, you can actually transmit from the back of the moon to Earth if there were things on the back of the moon to transmit to.
Interesting. Yeah, that's those we'll see what will happen there.
That's going to start at some point. They're going to do the whole mission upcoming to the moon, but you can't really use a helicopter on the moon.
I think there you don't have any much atmosphere left to actually work with.
Unfortunately, you're sort of. I mean, there are technically places with atmosphere, but you are, practically speaking, limited really to Venus, Triton, and Mars with some sort of air vehicle like this.
Yeah, on Europe, you can't. I think it's Europe with the ice. You could use a sledge. Get it?
You could ram a hole in with a rocket and then send the probe through.
A submarine, space submarine.
Yeah. I mean,
and then lost contact.
Take some time.
Oh god,
that's going to take some time, but it's
that's something which might be not happening.
Actually, there were some recent. So
They were planning it.
he does things for advanced concepts, and one of them is basically micro submarines on Europa to go below the surface. So
okay, good. I'm learning new stuff. That's cool.
They were planning it. Yeah. It was being planned for.
That will take time until they're over there anyway. So that will be a lot of planning, anyhow.
Is it
most missions, when they talk about them, they're talking about in the 20-year time frame, at least. So,
I already know. It's like, why does it take them so long? Like, you need time to prepare. I think. I mean, Voyager. What took them? That's what's like 10 years until they were fully fleshed out, or even more. I don't remember. Yeah. Well, but still, it took a long time to actually get all of that stuff done.
I'm sorry. I'm just checking out what the actual planning for Perseverance was.
I will be right back.
What the actual
the
actual start of the planning is it's at least a 10 years back.
Yeah, that's what I have in my head as well. As well, yeah. Tomorrow is such a silly church day. I don't know what happened there. It's just like stores are not open tomorrow. Yeah. Let's see. And somewhere I had there's the milestones. So just everybody who wants to keep up keeping up to date for Ingenuity, it's on April 5th they will going to have a webinar about the flight preview. And then on the April 8th, experts discuss NASA's Mars Helicopter and talk for students. So you can watch it on YouTube. On April 15th is the flight. Sorry, wrong. Taking flight, how girls can grow up to be engineers. And I can just say, any woman who wants to be in the field I am in, just go. It's just less common because they're usually not that interested in programming stuff, which is bizarre to me. But hey, just go for it. And if you need help, just tell me about my job. I gladly do that, and I like to talk about my job a lot. And then we have that second time. So
for my field with women, there aren't. I mean, there aren't that many girls there, and I mean, part of the reason is at times it is aerospace engineering at times is sort of a boys' club, and that is slowly changing, but it's a little unfortunate, but sometimes it can be a little hostile.
Yeah.
Like I just want more people to come and build rockets.
Yeah,
rockets are cool.
More people interested in space. I mean, I told you as we were introduced. My final goal is basically just that I can say, yeah, well, that thing which is currently in orbit, whatever, or is currently on its way to a mission, that I worked on. That's my goal, which I have. I just want to shoot. I want that something which I worked on that ends up in space. That is my goal, which I have for life. But I don't know where my life is going for me. So aim for the stars, aim for the stars, and go for it.
You know what would be ideal to get people interested in rocketry is making a kit that you can go to a DIY store or a plumbing service. You get all these parts and build your own little rocket engine out of readily available parts, and just have it as a kit. So you can then say to like, hey, you want to do a high school project? Here you go. I'm going to build a rocket engine. And then you have a little rocket engine. Like, that's the sort of thing I would love to see happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that was queer enough. I switched my silent keyboard just for streams. And Ugly German Tooth was first announcement of the mission known as Perseverance was December 2012. So Perseverance
took about 8 to 10 years.
Women excel in telling stuff what it should do, not in finding out why it doesn't comply. Oh well, somebody's going to set you on fire, and I think that person is called Wooden Toad. And she is a fierce lady who set somebody on fire. I hope it's not actually on fire, but in terms of speaking, you set them on fire. So, I mean, as far as I remember, Wooden Toad is studying physics. And, yeah.
Well, setting things on fire.
No, Facty. Sort of no, just no. I just say no.
That's called red rocketry. That's something else, please.
Could someone send a link to this? Because I know you guys are responding to chat. I just don't have a link to the chat.
Wait, I'm posting it in the meets.
Thank you.
So, no, it's in the meets chat. Archaeology. I mean, I met only one archaeologist, so, and that was actually a fairly interesting person, to say the least.
I don't mean to cause a problem, but I have no idea how to access text through meets.
Let me try something for you. Let's break all the technology. Let's break technology. Where's the audio? Here you go. There you go.
Thank you.
For what? There you go. Yes, SG1. I mean, didn't I share that picture with yeah? Can you forward this picture, Flint? Reply. You see the one with the pyramid, right? This. Can we show this? I think this one is going to be. Yeah. There are stargates about, so we shouldn't talk about it too much, because then the black SUVs will show up.
Oh yeah, so Cheese Model will have some time to load that in. It would take a couple of minutes, but yeah. First time I heard about it was like, that's gonna be fun. But also,
well, Wooden Toad. Okay, let's be clear. Aliens have clothing as well and fashion. So you just need to dig it up and be fashionable about it.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Ooh, that was fashionable, but no, don't wear that with red. That's a no-no.
You shouldn't pair it with red.
No, okay. I have no sense of fashion. I just walk around how I like it.
Yeah. You're implying that they haven't found them already. Okay.
It's okay. I have no sense of fashion either, but my excuse is I'm American.
Well, Yeah, you can use a helicopter on the moon, but once. Well, you can set it down and it'll do funny tricks, as in it'll go and not do a thing.
Basically stir up a lot of dust and to get clogged by it, and then it dies.
It might be just an expensive blender, just open air blender.
Okay. Geez, can you show the picture? I think it's a great job which they did. Yeah. I love it.
There you go. There you go. A landing pad for those tug vessels.
Hey, ugly German truths. No, I'm quite fashionable. You just don't get it. That's my style. And yes, that's my reply of you. Yeah. So somebody had fun with adding stuff. So there you go. Stargate confirmed. We already have interstellar space travel through a wormhole. So there we go.
Yep. They call it gravitational waves from faraway crashes, but it's really Stargate getting activated, and we're measuring it here.
Yeah, they're trying to find out which Stargates were activated with LIGO. Yeah, and also heist. Just anybody who hasn't noticed it. Oh, blimey. Let's see if we have some milestones. Yeah, so they have ticked off 2 milestones so far, and now it's the deployment which is next, and then it's trying to keep it warm for a night, then charging, communication confirmation, confirm engine power level, and then it's going to unlock, spin the rotor plates, a couple of tests, and then fly, and in the end it's land, of course, and then it did its mission, and that was it. And I think I partly assume it only will fly once, but let's hope for the best. Yeah.
If it's gonna work, if it's gonna work properly, I expect they'll create some extra missions for it. If it's still functioning afterwards.
I mean, there's a couple of issues, which can clog the motor, but with big hopes, it will work longer than expected. Which I really assume, because if it does, again proves that don't just go into designs as if it were just rapid prototyping, but actually planning and testing stuff. I mean, more tests are required, of course, and which destroys stuff, of course, but you can be careful.
Fun, as we all know, explosions are always fun.
Yeah,
but
as long as nobody gets hurt by it, then it's for sure it's fun.
That's why you test helicopters on Mars first, and
then use them on Earth. Wait a minute. Exactly. Wait a minute. There's such thing as helicopters here on Earth? I call that fake.
Yeah. That's
it's not like this.
They hung something on the firmament.
No. They had to have a secret blimp up there, which then pulled them up while. Oh God.
Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. That's how easy you can do stupid stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe in Earth somehow.
Yeah.
It's questionable, but I believe in it.
Yeah. You can calculate it's flat.
Hashtag where's our hoverboard? I don't know. Who stole it? I mean, we had one, and now it's gone. Whoever didn't return it, that's their fault. So, but I think it brought in a lot of funny things, stupid stuff. I mean, the conversation goes where it goes, and everybody's welcome to throw in stuff and say funny stuff. I try to bring in a lot of facts and knowledge from my field of work, and I hope you all like that stuff. There's a technique called auto rotation landing for a real helicopter. I don't believe you. I never seen such a thing, and I don't even know how that can possibly happen.
Oh yeah, auto rotation is kind of amusing. You just for a plane, the emergency landing or your emergency options are okay. I'm a glider now. Helicopters is, okay, I'm going to dive towards the ground and pull up at the last minute and hope I don't kill myself.
I mean, they do it in steps usually, isn't it? As in, they gain a bit of speed, turn the blades, and then brake, and to repeat that until they're down. But I can be wrong. I'm not a helicopter pilot, but I know that a lot of pilots. I mean, we have here the Rettungsflugwacht, or REGA for short. So if you have a serious accident, you most likely will be transported by them, because they have high-tech helicopters which they really know how to use. They quite trained, and they also have to learn all the auto rotation stuff. I think at least once a year. So yeah. Yeah.
A helicopter goes brrr. You just know that. Everyone knows helicopter goes brrr.
Yeah.
When I was in university, one of the projects that people were working on, I think they're still working on it because they've never gotten to work, was trying to recover a high power or sounding rocket using auto rotation to land the thing, and they've not had any luck. And they're college students, so kind of useless, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a bit the same here with our. I mean, it's a bachelor degree, but I mean, you will need a lot more than just your what's it called?
Classes.
The final thingy, the bachelor thesis, than to do that, because you need funding and actually also a lot of testing, which will be highly expensive. But I mean, it is possible to catch a sounding rocket with that sort of thing, but timing
no, they're trying to catch a sounding rocket with the helicopter.
Oh,
the helicopter is built into the sounding rocket, so it goes up, deploys a brief chute or a drogue chute to slow itself down, and then about 1,000 meters up or whatever, it deploys a helicopter, but without any motors. So it's a little bit different from Roton, which Roton was a pretty stupid idea, honestly, but it was pretty neat. Have you ever heard of Roton?
Nope. I mean, it sounds something like something is rotating.
So what Roton was is, oh dear, I just went through it. What Roton was is, it was a rocket and a helicopter. So it was their concept for a single stage to orbit vehicle. Now,
I would call it a rollercopter.
Now, basically, how this thing worked is they would take off using the helicopter blades and lift themselves up to a high enough altitude so that they could start to use vacuum engines. Then they'd ignite the vacuum engines, and because you're now in an area with low drag, the helicopter blades have inertia and they're able to keep spinning. And actually, if I remember correctly, I think they were going to use jet tip helicopter blades rather than one powered by a central motor. But because
Yeah,
they have
well, actually-
inertia still. They use that to drive
The
pump
idea is wonderful.
and then put itself into orbit, and then it would deploy its payload, whatever, turn around, re-enter, and it would use those helicopter blades to slow itself down, which, works pretty well on its surface. But then they were going to try and land the thing, and the problem was it didn't use counter-rotating blades or anything, so it was literally unflyable.
Oh no. idea, though-
Blimey.
The idea, though, I like, because the problem you have, of course, with your rocket engine, I think you can tell much more about it than I can have, is your pressure differences in the first, the first 100 kilometers. It's a lot of the pressure differences, and your engine, needs to be built for a certain operating pressure. So you have your efficiency, you improve your efficiency if you have less of a difference in there, right?
Well, so the thing is with... so what we're really talking about here is expansion ratios. On the ground, the atmosphere is quite dense, but it actually thins out very, very quickly. By 100 kilometers, there is nothing left. By 50 kilometers, there is basically nothing left. I think most planes fly at around 10 kilometers, and at that point, you're above around 2/3 of the atmosphere. Now, with a rocket engine, you can actually overexpand. Without doing anything fancy, you can overexpand by about a factor of 2. So, if your ground pressure is 100 kPa, you can, in theory, have the pressure about as low as 50 kPa before you start having problems with the separation and whatnot. Now, if you do some clever things, you can reduce that down to like a third, even lower, 20%. Now, as you go higher, that atmosphere thins out quite a bit. So by launching yourself from higher up, and this is the idea behind air launch, as well as some more ridiculous ideas like raccoons, is to lift yourself up above most of the atmosphere so you can use engines with a higher expansion ratio. Because if your atmosphere is now only 50 kPa, you can now expand to 25 kPa, and you get a lot more acceleration. So aerospikes are actually really interesting, or ugly German truths, but they do come with quite a few problems, and one of the biggest problems is cooling. Now, that actually works really well for an expander cycle, but there's also the problem that rockets are notoriously risk-averse because it costs huge amounts of money to develop a rocket. So it's not an industry that things revolutionize or rapidly adjust themselves. And though there were plans to use aerospikes in the past, it's probably not super likely they're actually going to be employed. I myself fall more into the philosophy of big dumb booster, so I'm much more interested in very low pressure engines that you just make the rockets big, they're pressure fed, and they're just dirt simple, because about 55% of the cost of a rocket can be attributed to the turbopumps, which is quite significant.
I see. I mean, you're the rocket scientist after all.
Yeah.
It's basically half of it is just like a bit of gibberish, and the other part is like, I understand that partially, but I don't understand it fully.
I get this.
I mean, it is completely okay to also say, I don't get it. I mean, some people in my family don't want to say I don't get it, and therefore I shouldn't say anything about it. But I happily admit I don't get it. But
same thing with me, computers. Yeah.
So it is rocket science. Rocket science is hard. And that it wouldn't be otherwise if it wasn't called rocket science. You know what I mean?
Rocket science itself is actually quite simple. It's actually only a couple equations that really explain everything. The difficulty is actually rocket engineering.
Yeah. Okay. It's
a common joke.
I mean,
scientists.
I say it's Okay, engineering is actually, as I am an engineer as well, for me is engineering just applied science, which is rocket science is for me also rocket engineering, which is, yeah, I have a messed up thing. But I see it would work more in the engineering part as in the science part. That's why I want to be more engineer than scientist. So that's me. Trust me, I'm an engineer.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we actually said everything and anything about all of it. I mean, we had rockets, we had helicopters, we had silly stuff, we had everything. Anything to add? Otherwise, we will wrap up things shortly and stuff. So, last calls. Kieran, anything to add?
2 beer, please.
Yeah, 2 beer. 2 Bier bitte.
Lekker.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add.
Oh god.
I do have some very tragic news before we end.
Oh no.
My tea's gone cold.
Oh no. Tragic.
Yeah,
oh no.
I ran out of my tea as well.
Well, I switched to beer.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna do it a bit.
I switched to beer as I end my tea at our silly bit. So, Splashes, anything you want to add?
No, sir. Unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah. If you have questions about rocket engineering, now it's your chance to ask. Now ask, because who knows when you get another chance to ask about that stuff. Dear ugly German Truths, we need to talk. I think we need to fix.
It's the lederhosen. He put the lederhosen back on. Yes.
No, yeah. And then we have Wooden Toad. Do you perform rocket surgery?
Technically, yes.
Ooh. And theoretically?
But no, I mean, what?
You said technically, but theoretically?
Yeah, no,
usually it's all the way around. Sorry.
Like technically, the way you make rockets and repair rockets and test rockets, it's surgery on a mechanical device. So, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Technically, I can imagine. Okay, for those you probably don't know, I've been trained as a veterinarian technician, veterinarian assistant, so I had to do some surgery. Yeah, it's all plumbing. It's basically tubes. Yeah, it's all tubes and electronic wiring, and then there is the fluid 1, fluid 2, fluid. Yeah, it's the same. Only the actual surgery is mushy tubes. It's mushy and it's the same though.
Yeah. So Wooden Toad is currently on spring break with her 5-year-old. So that's the only thing.
GPS asks, where did they put all the helium in the rockets to make them go up? But it depends on a couple things. I'm going to completely ignore how you're actually asking that and answer that like it's a serious question. So with a pressure-fed rocket, quite a few rockets will use helium bottles, and actually quite a few other rockets will use helium bottles as well. Helium makes a very good pressure because it's very inert. It doesn't react with things, and it's very light. So a lot of times, even pump-fed rockets will use helium to pressurize the tanks, because you need to have pressure in the tanks, or as the fuel gets sucked into the turbopumps, it can cavitate, which is where the pressure gets too low and it turns into a gas and it makes the engine explode. Now, with a pressure-fed rocket, a lot of times helium gets stored up into relatively large tanks. Now, pressure-fed rockets are much less common these days, but you basically take all that helium and you dump it into the main tanks to pressurize it for a pressure-fed vehicle. And actually, that's still done on a lot of upper stages for things. For instance, I think the engines on the Sky Crane, for instance, as well as the various RCS thrusters, they're hydrazine, but they are pressurized with a helium pressurant generally.
So if I get that correctly, so just from my feeble mind, basically you just preload the system with helium, and then fill it up with the other gas which is then needed, and the helium is replaced, or is it actually still in there? Just that I can wrap my mind around it.
So you fill up a tank with your propellant, and then you have other tanks full of helium. Now you take that helium tank and you run some of the helium into there, and that pressurizes the thing. Now when you open the valves for the engines, some of that fluid flows out, more helium flows in, and it keeps the thing at a stable pressure. And then you also have regulators.
Okay, so now I get it. That's the first image I hadn't had. So now I get it. That's actually really interesting. So there you go. Some more knowledge on your way. Any more questions? Do I have any more questions?
Politicians. We've made the joke quite a bit that politicians would make great rocket engines because of the amount of air hot air they produce. But in fact, they're actually not that brilliant as propellant or as an engine, because the air that comes out of them doesn't come out at a very fast speed, and that's really important for rocket engines. It's also at a really low pressure. If you want to really get the most out of your politicians, you should grind them up and dehydrate them, and then you can mix them with some ammonium perchlorate or something along those lines.
That is brilliant. I love it.
When I die, turn me into rocket fuel, please. Solid rocket fuel. Yeah, I love that.
Cryogenic or solid fuel?
So that depends on really what you want. Solids are very useful for certain things. They're very stable, and you can store them for a long time. The other thing is they come up to thrust very quickly. So solids are useful in things where you need to store material for a long time, and you want simplicity. So for instance, things like ballistic missiles, solids are what you're going to go for. Now, with cryogenics get much better performance. Now, there's actually a third group in there of storable propellants, which are storable like the solid fuels, but they still require a lot of the complexity of the liquid cryogenic fuels. Not as much, because you don't have to keep them cool. And so we actually use the storables on a lot of the interplanetary missions. For instance, hydrazine is a very common storable. But the cryogenics get much better performance than the solid fuels do. So with rockets, you're basically trying to maximize the velocity you get out the back end of the rocket. And to do this, there's a couple things you can do. You can increase the temperature of the combustion, or you can decrease the molecular weight of your gas coming out the back end. Now, the thing with solids is they tend to have very high molecular content, or they tend to have very high molecular masses. Now, when you compare that to something like a cryogenic rocket, they tend to have much lower masses. Now, if you look at the result products of a solid, there's going to be a bunch of chlorine compounds. There's alumina in there. There's, as well as your oxygen, various nitrous or nitrogen compounds and such. Where with a liquid kerosene rocket, you're basically just going to have carbon dioxide, some carbon monoxide, depending on the mixture ratio, and water, which is quite a bit lighter. Now, lighter still, you go to hydrogen oxygen, and that's just basically just water and some hydrogen coming out the back end, because you run these things fuel rich. So with that, you can significantly increase the significantly increase the velocity coming out the back end, which means you significantly decrease the amount of rocket you need to carry things. But they come up with a lot more additional complexities and costs that you have to factor in when making such a selection.
So, and the follow-up question is, which is better used for murder?
Well, let's not give advice on that one. Be responsible for anything of this sort of manner.
I mean, to be honest, I would be actually say, yeah. I mean, come up with your own murder plans. We're not here to tell you how.
The theory.
I mean, I have a lot of funny ideas on that note, but hey, I'm keeping them to myself. Otherwise, somebody's copying me, and I don't want the copycat running around. I mean, after all, I'm a pyromaniac, and I'm a firefighter, so that goes well together. I tell ya.
Yeah.
I'm always busy.
Don't take homicide advice from a webcast. Yeah, it can be traced back to you.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, but I'm a pyromaniac, and I'm actually I love fire, and I actually am a firefighter. So,
any more questions?
Anything left, or is that prerequisite to be accepted as a firefighter? Yeah, partially, but there's also a big issue. I mean, there were actually people who laid fires because they were pyromaniacs, and they wanted to go on the mission, and that's why they laid fire. So, let's just say a lot of common sense is needed as well. But yeah. I mean, a certain sense of being not afraid of fire is actually quite good, and the pyromaniac usually isn't that afraid of fire. So
they could use some of that.
Yeah. So, if there is nothing else, or then I would say a big thank you for both of the guests we had. Splashes who joined in the last minute, which I really appreciate that you just said, yeah, I'm joining, even though I didn't know anything about it beforehand, because communications is hard. And I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe sometime else. Or
sure, I'm sure if there's another rocket topic we want to talk about.
Nice.
I probably have used to yell.
Cool. Kieran, you anything closing?
Yeah, thank you all for joining us on this wild ride of murder and conspiracy plottings, and some helicopter stuff in there. I'd like to thank you all, and I thank you also, Flint, for once again having us, and Cheese as well. Thank you.
Yeah. So on that note, I really want to thank Cheesemondo for actually hosting or producing the whole thing for us, being extremely flexible with providing us with all the music and everything. He did a great job, and I highly recommend or ask everybody kindly to go over there, join his Patreon, donate him something, because he's really doing an amazing job. And to really thank you, Cheesemondo, for being our producer. And on that note, I wish everybody a good one. And don't forget, there is a pub chat later on, and other stuff going on the you know what I mean. Have a good one.